So Unity decided to basically set itself on fire, and a lot of developers started looking for other alternatives. But then Unity was like, no, please, come back. I can change, and was able to put out most of the fire, but the damage was already done. And now that the dust has settled, and that Unity CEO is finally gone, alongside the stupidly dumb changes they wanted to make, it's time for me to make a decision. Do I stick with Unity, or do I go to a different engine? If you don't know who I am, my name is Lixian. I am a full-time editor and a part-time hobbyist game developer who has released a handful of games, most of them in Unity, and today I am going to tell you why I'm choosing the Unreal Engine to start developing my games instead of Unity. And at the end of the video, there'll be a surprising plot twist that no one is expecting. Also, I know some of you are probably asking, what about Godot? And I'll give my thoughts on Godot later in the video. Number 1. It's old. Not like falling apart old, but more like a fine wine kind of old. What I mean by this is, this engine is battle tested, and it has shipped an insane amount of games. Its first game was called Unreal, hence the name of the engine, back in 1998. And it's currently on its 5th version with even more features than I could ask for. It's not a perfect engine, but more than ready to tackle any sort of game. Except for 2D games, but we'll get to that later. Number 2, so many features. Unreal has a ton of features out of the box. I'm talking a robust animation system, AI behavior trees, water and river system, cloth simulation, chaos destruction physics, world partition, and so much more. And let's not forget the great duo that was introduced in version 5.0, Lumen and Nanite. I know these have been talked about to death, but they are two incredible tools that make my game dev life so much easier. It's good practice to keep your models as low poly as possible, but knowing that it can automatically create LODs for my meshes without me needing to worry about it, it's so freeing and so much more time effective for an indie developer. And nothing blows my mind more than placing a light and having it bouncing in real time across the level without having to wait 7,000 years for the light to bake. Plus, because Epic Games are also developing other games, Fortnite, every feature they create for it will also be in the engine for everyone else to use. This way we, the developers, get top tier features as they get created, implemented and tested in their own many games. It's just Fortnite. Number 3, it's a game engine. Unity is also a game engine, but Unreal is a game engine. Let me explain. Unreal was built from the ground up to make games. So things like player character, player controller, game state, AI, all of these systems are an integral part of the engine. In Unity, a lot of these systems, if not all of them, have to be done from scratch, which in a way can give you more freedom and makes Unity feel more like a sandbox engine, whereas in Unreal, by already having all of these game systems implemented, makes it an actual game engine. When I need a new player character, I just make a new character, and I have a ton of features to work with. If I need my character to jump, I could program a jumping mechanic on my own, or I could just call the jump function, and we're done. And if I need to tweak the jumping, all the jumping settings are on the character component. However, there are some downsides to this. If you're coming from Unity like I was, all of this functionality Unreal has can be a little overwhelming. Why are there so many settings? It also requires you to work in a certain way with the engine, and that can take a bit of time to get used to. Because if you don't do things in a specific way, or if you're working against the engine, you're going to have a bad time. Also, I know Unreal provides tools for other fields such as movies and architectural visualization, but this engine was made primarily for games. Number 4, blueprints. I love regular text programming, but there's something so wonderful about blueprints. Even if sometimes it can look a little spaghettified. I've heard that technically you can do everything in blueprints, but so far I haven't come across anything that blueprints can handle. And, like I mentioned in another video, I like colors. So blueprints are a colorful programming heaven for me. Number 5, so much free stuff! For the past few years, Epic Games has been giving away 5 free assets from their marketplace every month. And even before I started using Unreal, I started hoarding them because 1, they're free, and 2, maybe they could be useful in the future. And turns out they were! And it's not like cheap assets either. I mean, the price varies, but some of these can be very expensive. I'm not sure how long they'll be doing this, most likely won't be forever, but as long as they keep providing, I'll keep hoarding. And let's not forget about Quixel Megascans and Metahumans, a gigantic library of 3D models and materials that technically have a subscription fee, but if you use them in Unreal Engine, they are 100% free. And Metahumans is kinda like a Sims creator, except the characters are stupid realistic. Number 6, it's owned by Epic Games. This whole Unity thing made a lot of developers question the trust of game engine providers. Now, could Epic Games do the exact same thing Unity did? Well, technically, yes, but here are the two major differences. First, the CEO of Epic Games is Tim Sweeney, the creator of the Unreal Engine. So Mr. Sweeney knows what it's like to be a game developer. And more importantly, he knows what it's like to be an independent game developer. He knows how much work, dedication, and effort is required to build a game. The second one is, Unity makes money with its engine users, whereas Epic Games makes money not only licensing their engine, but also with their games. So they don't solely rely on the engine to make a profit. You know, because Fortnite brings in the money bags, even though they just fired a bunch of people and are going to implement a new subscription fee for non-game developers. Well, speaking of bad news, here are the downsides of Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine for 2D games kinda sucks. They had this plugin called Paper 2D in Unreal Engine 4, but they decided to double down on the 3D features and stopped supporting it completely. However, I know there's a plugin called Paper ZD, but it's a marketplace asset and it's not made by Epic Games themselves. So that's something to keep in mind. Although it could work wonderfully. I don't know, I've never tried it, but I've seen enough people saying good things about it. And it's free, so you could always give it a try. Another thing is Unreal Heavy. Unreal is a beast of an engine with, like I mentioned, a lot of features. That means that it can become quite bloated, it requires a lot of storage space, and it's a memory munching monster. You can boot up the engine and it will start using just a couple of gigabytes of RAM, and an hour later 15. You don't need the most powerful computer to run it, but you still need a powerful computer to run it. And then there's C++, which is not really a downside per se, it's just that it's more complicated than C#. Although I've heard that for Unreal Engine specifically, it's a bit more streamlined, so not as complicated as the real C++. It's a monster that I've yet to tackle myself, and I will have to in the future, but for now I will stick with my colorful blueprints. And now the big twist that no one's expecting! Technically, I had already chosen Unreal Engine as my engine of choice, like 1 or 2 months before this whole Unity thing. I was going to make this video anyways. The only difference is that if I ever wanted to make a 2D game, or if I had an idea for a game where using Unreal would be overkill, I would gladly go back to Unity and make that game. Because don't get me wrong, bad management aside, Unity is a fantastic engine that allowed me and so many developers to create their games. Most of the devlogs in this channel are from games I made with Unity. However, since this whole paper install thing happened, I had no intention of ever using Unity again. Unity was dead to me because I could not trust the people managing the engine. But since the CEO is gone, I might reconsider. I still need to wait and see who the new CEO is and their plans for the engine, but I'm hoping it will be someone with a true passion for games and game development. Now, maybe a few of you are probably asking, have you heard of Godot? Why not give Godot a try? Godot could never pull the same bull Unity pulled. And yes, technically you are correct, but remember in the beginning when I showed you the games I made? Well, one of them was made in Unreal, meaning that I already kinda know how Unreal works, and for Godot I would basically need to start all over again. However, this whole Unity fire just proved that knowing multiple engines is not a bad thing at all. Which in that case, maybe should I learn Godot?